Hey everyone, this is Will from China, and welcome to this brand new, exciting episode of The Missing Piece. In English, there's a saying. It goes, when you roam, do as Romans do. I'm sure most of us are familiar with the saying. It doesn't matter if your first language is English or not. To put in a simple way, that means when we are coming to a new land or moving into a new territory, the simple thing to do is to do what the locals are actually doing. Over the years, and I traveled internationally, especially to a lot more countries which I'm not familiar with the language and the culture. For example, Egypt. I know during the previous episodes, I mentioned this country a lot. Mainly, I fell in love with the country as soon as the trip was over. I had the privilege to encounter with the locals while staying in the capital city of Egypt, Cairo. People were rather friendly, and I knew that I could not speak any word of Arabic. It's a new language. It's a new culture. Meanwhile, as my friend showed me around and taught me so many things, the uniqueness about the country, including the history, the culture, the modernization, and most importantly, the positive relationship between China and Egypt. I took everything in, even though I only spent about 7 days in Cairo. But needless to say, that was the best 7 days ever spent in Egypt. Of course, I didn't speak the language, so I had to learn how to copy exactly what others did as the locals. And especially during some special circumstances, people look at me because I was the only non-Egyptian walking down the street, or maybe walking into a coffee shop, or simply sit down in a restaurant and learn to order the food without using the Arabic language. It was challenging for me. But my friend guided me willingly and showed me how to do things as the Romans do. This is the common sense. This is the commonality. This is what we are supposed to do, and this is what others expect us to do as the travelers or as someone who travels around the world. Now, I'm going to show you 2 videos. In the video, you're going to find out someone actually are living in China. They are doing the opposite of what Romans can do, or what Romans should do. Take a look. After watching those 2 videos, I immediately went online to search what the Chinese netizens were saying about those 2 people. On one hand, some people said, throw them out. If they're living in China, but they're not following the Chinese rules, or they're not following the protocols the government enforced upon us, they shouldn't be here. On the other hand, people praised the public servant to say it was very nice and it was considerable for them to offer the mask to those non-Chinese residents. Even some of the netizens are asking the question, do we give too much freedom to the non-Chinese residents today in China? That's a very good question. I want to say, I don't think, and I wouldn't agree with, that we're giving too much freedom or too much honor to the non-Chinese residents. It's instead, it's time for them to learn to blend in the Chinese culture and the Chinese society, unless they refuse to do so. We know for some parts of the world, COVID-19 still hitting them really hard. For example, in America. Recently, one of my friends told me in the city of Seattle, just within one day, 600 cases happened. 24 hours, 600 cases. People went inside the shopping mall. It was optional for them to wear the mask or not. But meanwhile, in the country is India. The cases are still not going away soon. And mainly because the slowness of the vaccination programs. China is making sure that the pandemic is not coming back to us. Because we know last year, in the year of 2020, the pandemic almost turned the entire world upside down. Chinese government is doing everything we can to control or to minimize the threat from the pandemic. So I want to say, as a non-Chinese resident, if you are living in China, please help us and help you to follow the rules, follow the guidelines. And just because you are not Chinese, and just because you are not born in this country, and just because you are so-called distinguished guests, special expert, or even the word specialists, the list can go on and on, but that doesn't give you any rights to take the exception. Again, I agree with some people. I am very proud that these public servants actively offering the mask to those non-Chinese residents at the airport. But on the other hand, it's rather shameful for these people to avoid or even to refuse this kind gestures. Remember, you are in China. You're living in China. And as I mentioned before, the saying is, when you roam, do as the Romans do. This is the special moment, not only for China, but for the entire world, to wake up and realize we must follow the rules obediently and work together effectively, so that after the pandemic, we are going to be back to normal and back to the way that we are going to continue to strive excellence and strive economically prosperity. So when I was watching these two videos, I have to think for a second. What happened? What about those two people if they carried the pandemic without even realizing it or even without knowing it? I couldn't imagine what would happen to the city or what would happen to people around them. So that's why the question is not, does China give non-Chinese residents more credit today? I don't think that's the question. The question is, should China enforce more strict policies for non-Chinese residents in China today? In some countries, they're closing down the borders. For example, Hungary. They don't welcome immigrants. Or needless to say, during the moment of crisis, they shut the borders, prevent any non-Hungarians coming in because they are greatly concerned about their own citizens first. China are not doing any of that because we are a bigger country. And we realize international talents are actually contributing to the fast growth of the country. We welcome you to China. But three things you need to do. Number one, don't complain about the country that you were not born into. No country is perfect. Don't complain about it. Get used to it. And number two, be positive instead of being pessimistic. We're all working together. And no country is perfect. And as a Chinese national, I never say my country is perfect. And neither should anyone for any other countries. Because the world is not perfect, so that we can work together to make it better, to make it perfect. And last but not least, help us, join us. During the pandemic, everyone counts. Every single matter counts. We need you. So I want to send a message to all my international friends. Please, help us, help you. China needs you. The world needs you. As a matter of fact, the world needs each one of us. Next time, it doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter where you are traveling to. Please remember, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Again, everyone, this is Will from China. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate every time that you leave your comments and feedback as soon as you finish watching. I love to hear from you. I'm looking forward to all those meaningful exchange and positive feedback from all of you. Ultimately, your opinions, your comments, and feedbacks helping our show to become better. And second, please don't forget, if you have any interesting ideas or special guests that you would like to introduce to our show, please feel free to contact Will. Because next time, maybe you are watching the story either about you or the friends around you. Enjoy your week.